Hey guys, what's going on? My name's Rob. I am the producer of Uncut with Jay Cutler. Our man Jay is out hunting this week, so we wanted to bring you a little bit of a different show, kind of a special show. A look back at some of our best moments and favorite stories from the first year of Uncut with Jay Cutler. You're going to hear from a slew of awesome people who brought really incredible stories to the show, including Nate Bergatze, Bryan, Mark Cuban, Jeanie Buss, Danny Gold, Sarah Merrill, Clay Travis, Pat McAfee, and yes, of course, Sofia Franklyn. So enjoy this special edition of Uncut with Jay Cutler.
Nate Bergatze?
Yeah.
Did I say it right?
Yeah, Bergatze. Yeah.
Bergatze. Do you still get nervous? Or did you ever get nervous?
Yeah, man. At the beginning, you're just like, it's the worst. You're just so, you know, I remember just thinking, because I knew I had to go, but I remember just thinking you wanted like the building to burn down.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like you wanted it to be an excuse that you could be like, dude, I was going to go.
Yes.
The building burned down. Like, I can't do
it.
I can't do it.
It's out of my control.
hands. Yeah, you want it out of your hands and go, but it was at the beginning, you're just like, so I don't get nervous like that at the beginning. You get very excited.
A little anxious.
I get nervous. I mean, if I go up there and don't get laughs right away, I mean, you just get kind of hit and you feel your face get a little red and you get a little like, oh, I got to get these.
Oh boy.
You got to like, you snap back in it and like like, all right, let me get them. And then I'm thinking of my jokes real fast and that kind of stuff. But now, you've been on stage so much. There's so many things that have happened. You've been through so much stuff that you kind of then go like, I can get through it.
Yeah,
like,
you know the ups and downs.
You get excited though.
Yeah.
I heard Tony Finau, who just won. I'm a big golfer fan, and I'm friends with Tony.
Yep.
He just won. But I liked, he described it once. Someone asked if he got nervous, and he said, I'm excited.
Yeah.
And I thought that was like a good, your excitement is nervous, but your nervous is just pushed into a different way.
I think if you don't get a little bit of nerves, excitement, like it's not important to you.
Yeah, it's going to, for you guys, you're going to get hurt.
Yeah.
I'm going to lose crowds. They're not going to come anymore. Like an audience can tell when you don't care.
Sure, absolutely.
And so you learn to like do that, you know. Yeah, I mean, would you get nervous? Like, were you?
Oh, yeah.
It was like that. You were like excited.
Yeah, I mean, I was excited. I was anxious.
Yeah.
You know, it was more like just the pregame. Like, hey, I'm ready to do this. Let's do this.
Yeah.
The whole pregame, the lead up to it. You know, that's whenever like you get a little anxious. Like I wanted to do well.
Yeah.
And so it was just like, all right, let's go. Let's do this.
Would you get like people always get mad because you're not. You just seem like you show your emotions as much, right? Like they always like. Would you ever feel that where like people like you think like you're like look, dude, I'm into this. I'm sorry, I'm not screaming like you want me to do. Because I get it. I've had the same thing. Not the same thing. Not like the same thing. I go through the same situation with playing for the Chicago Bears, but they're in like sometimes I would have it in podcasts, like or if I do interviews, and I remember they'd be like they feel like I'm so boring.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's just how I talk, dude. I don't know what you want me to do. Like
you can't change it.
I can't change it. Or my act, they're like, it's just like so low energy. You're like, bro, what do you want? Like I'm just being me.
Exactly.
And so I feel like it can be like that, where you go like, I'm not that guy. Like I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah, I'm doing my job. I'm trying to do it to the best of my ability. And it got to a point like I felt like I couldn't win. If I showed emotion, I was angry and I was a bad teammate. If I didn't show emotion, I didn't care.
Yeah.
So it just got to the point where I was like, you know what, I can't win, so I'm just gonna do my job and I'll go sit on the bench and you know, in the facility at practice and stuff, I was more vocal and more emotional and did all that stuff. But on game day, I was just like, I'm just gonna literally just do my job and do my job.
Yeah, there's a lot of people. Bill Belichick's like that. Like you feel like he's a guy you only see on TV. You're like, this guy, you could think he doesn't care at all.
Yes, and he
cares.
Greatly cares.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, if I didn't care, like I wouldn't have taken the hits. I wouldn't have been out there doing it and trying to win football games.
They don't think about your personality. Like, I feel like sometimes people don't think you're like we all have personalities. And when you're on a stage like that, and someone's watching you don't think like, yeah, dude, that's just his personality is a little more chill than like. Yeah. It's not. He's not going to be as.
Yeah, like I'm not an actor. I'm not an actor. I'm not a performer.
Yeah.
You know, I can't. I couldn't do my job and act a certain way at the same time. I'm just not built that way. So, so, I mean, it took some heat for that, but I mean, I wouldn't change it. I wouldn't go back and do it differently because I don't think I could.
It'd been great if you're like, I didn't care. That would have been very funny to go. I'll be honest with you, if I walked in, you're like super animated right now, and then you're like, yeah, I didn't care any not one day.
Didn't care.
Didn't care.
Just cashing checks.
Just cashing checks. Just get drilled. Just get. You're like, I could handle it. I didn't care. That's why I could handle it, because I didn't care.
Didn't care one bit.
Yeah.
Slept like a baby, really.
Yeah, dude, unbelievable. Best sleep of my life was those
8 years. Sleep like shit now.
Yeah.
Caroline Bryan, the wife of Luke. Y'all been married for a while.
Almost 15 years. Mm-hmm.
Give us secrets, tips. How's it work?
Marriage?
Sure.
Oh my gosh. I don't think there is a secret. I don't think there is a secret. I think that if one person is done and out, it's not going to work.
No, it's two-way road.
It's not going to work.
Yes.
If both people are willing to try,
Sure.
we've been married a long time. Mm-hmm. We fight. That's just normal.
That's marriage.
But if one person is done and out, you're doomed.
Oh, it's a wrap.
But if you're both, even if things are bad, but if you're both there going, I want to fight for it, it can work.
You can figure it out.
But there is no secret. There is no secret to
marriage is hard.
Yeah.
It's very tough. Yeah. You got to work at it. You've got to figure it out. But to your point, both parties have to be in.
Yeah.
As soon as one party says, "Hey, I'm not
if
doing
one's
this,"
done, then it's done. I mean, it's done.
You can't fight your fight and their fight and try to pull it back in. It doesn't work.
No.
Luke is like a sex symbol in country music, right? Mm-hmm. It's like, what's it like being married to that?
I'm used to it. I mean, I don't think about it.
I mean, I'm pretty. It probably feels the same way about you.
No.
What do you mean no?
What do you mean? I'm not a sex symbol for anything.
Well, you're probably a sex symbol to him.
For him, yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
So he probably feels the same way about you that people feel about him. So it's probably just a wash, I would think.
Yeah, I mean, Luke's ass and his ass shaking has made us a lot of money, so I'm not gonna. But I mean, I'm not worried about it. I mean, it comes with the territory. It does.
What do you mean?
I mean, I knew that, girls, as long as they're respectful, then whatever.
I mean, I feel like you'd turn up on a girl real quick if you had to.
And I have, yeah.
You have?
Yeah.
How so?
There's only been a couple, like if they will
cross the line.
Yeah, just don't touch,
yes.
don't grab.
Yeah.
And then, I've done this to a girl a couple of times from stage, and
I'd be scared of you if I was a girl.
You should be.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Rightfully so. We've got a pretty cool guest that I'm fired up about, Mark Cuban. Have you found that, you were talking about the difference in generations and these kids and stuff, like with social media, and these guys have voices now. I mean, they can get out there. I mean, much different than it was. I mean, even 5 years ago, 10 years ago, whenever I was playing, you worked for the organization. That was it. There was organization, it was coaches, and then there was players somewhere down at the bottom. And now these guys they're challenging every aspect of everything, it seems like.
100, yeah, for sure. Right. The NBA it's been more talent driven, right? The players have always been bigger than the game.
Sure.
The NFL always, and Major League Baseball even more, has been about the shield, right? Mm-hmm. What's on the center of the field.
Yep.
And that's always had the greatest amount of control and leverage.
Yeah.
It's just different in the NBA. I mean, the NBA are thought leaders. Our players are thought leaders. Mm-hmm. They have a social impact. And to me, that's a really good thing. Now, it pisses some people off sometimes, but that's okay, right? Because if you can try to make whatever you think is better,
sure.
If you as a citizen in this country can make it better, more power to you, right? Mm-hmm. And it's tougher for NFL players for sure, just because you're behind. You've got your helmet, and
mm-hmm.
if 53 Cowboys players walked in the door, you might recognize 4 of them, right?
Maybe. Yeah.
And 49, you're not going to know.
Mm-hmm.
15 Mavs players walk in the door, kids playing 2K, they're going to recognize all of them.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It's totally different. I mean, you get to see all the basketball players' faces. There's 82 games. You know, we played 16. We had helmets on.
Right.
You know, and there's fewer basketball players. I mean, it's just a different
Yeah,
animal.
I mean, yeah, there's only 450, right, plus the two ways. And the other thing is, like, there's 15 minutes of actual playing time in an NFL game?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, you sit in, and I think that's why the ratings are so much higher than all other sports.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to make a real commitment, right? You can be doing your fantasy team, you can be betting, you could be, you know, eating your Fritos, you can be doing whatever, because you only have to commit really 15 minutes of time to watch the game.
Exactly.
You know, whereas a basketball game, it's a real 48 minutes, and with baseball, it's 16 hours a game.
Gosh.
You know, and so
I don't know I don't know how the MLB is like functioning. Like 162 games. I mean, I just don't. The stadiums. I don't understand how they make it happen. But obviously they do.
You know, they wouldn't let me in. I told them it'd be a whole. You know, I'd be the one owner you don't want, right? Just because I'd be telling my guys to flip their bats and ham it up. And make it fun.
I was watching something. It might have been on ESPN, but there was a team down in like Georgia or something, and it was like AAA or AA, and they basically made it fun as hell. They were like, you know, like walk up music, all this kinds of stuff for the fans, and like it was like and now it's like every game is like sold out.
Because why do you go to a baseball game? To drink beer, eat hot dogs, hang with your buddies or friends or girlfriends or wives or whatever, right? Yeah. And chill. Yep. You don't have to get there in the first inning because you don't really miss anything, and you don't have to stay to the ninth if it's not a great game. And so, hey, I'm a Pirates fan and a Rangers fan, and so it's all about going just for the fun. And look, going to an NFL game can be fun, the tailgating and everything, and an NBA game, the yelling and screaming and everything going on. But at least when the action is on, there's action. Baseball now, strikeouts and everything, it's just a different game.
Uncut with Jay Cutler is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Let's face it, sometimes multitasking can be a little overwhelming. Like when your favorite podcast is playing and the person next to you is talking and your car fan is blasting, all while you're trying to find the perfect parking spot. But then again, sometimes multitasking is easy, like quoting with Progressive Insurance. They do the hard work of comparing rates so you can find a great rate that works for you, even if it's not with them. Give their nifty comparison tool a try, and you might just find getting the rate and coverage you deserve is easy. All you need to do is visit Progressive's website to get a quote with all the coverages you want, like comprehensive and collision coverage or personal injury protection. Then you'll see Progressive's direct rate, and their tool will provide options from other companies all lined up and ready to compare, so it's simple to choose the rate and coverages you like. Press play on comparing auto rates. Quote at Progressive.com to join the over 27 million drivers who trust Progressive. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Comparison rates not available in all states or situations. Prices vary based on how you buy. We've got a special guest. Not sure how we got her. Not sure how she makes time. Jeanie, thank you for coming on. Appreciate it. Your trophies in the background look amazing. Like I told you before, your background is far superior to mine.
It's called a humble brag, just I don't even have to say anything, just having them kind of in the background, it
for sure
says it all. In
my experience, like owners aren't generally that vocal with players, and it seems like you are in an honest way to the players that matter, and it's a different perspective I'm sure you get from them. How did you learn? How did you come about that? Did you learn it? Was your dad like that? Because I don't think that's the norm, and you get a 100% different perspective than probably you see from 10,000 feet above.
That's exactly the way my dad was. He was unusual that way, and it was remarkable. But also for me, the experience of my 17-year relationship with Phil Jackson, and watching how he treated a player as a human being, not just on the basketball court, but the holistic view of the individual and how to, bring together a group of individuals to create that team environment. Mm-hmm. And for me, that was such a valuable experience to see through the coach's eyes that journey that a team goes on, and the kind of bar that he set for accomplishment. And when he and I first started dating, my dad had brought Phil in the fall of 1999. And when my dad
where was Phil at then?
Well, he had taken a year off. Like the Bulls, the last dance was 97, I guess.
Yep.
And then there was a lockout, a shortened season, because there was a lockout. And he sat out that season. That was the year that the Spurs won the championship, and Phil he kind of attached the asterisk to it.
Yeah, Tim Duncan and Admiral. Yeah. How'd you guys meet?
Well, when my dad said he was going to hire Phil Jackson, I said, I was like, Dad, why would you want to do that? We already have these two big personalities in Shaquille O'Neal and Kobe Bryant.
Who was the coach then?
The coach had been Del Harris.
Okay.
Shaq and Kobe came in the summer of '96. Shaq as a free agent, and Kobe was drafted. To the team. And he was actually drafted by Charlotte, and we traded Vlade Divac to get Kobe. So Del Harris coached the team, and they lost in the second round, I think 3 years in a row. And that's not what my dad wanted. He wanted to win a championship. So they let Del Harris go, and he pursued Phil Jackson, who was a free agent. And, and I, against my advice, but what did I really know? And then
why were you against it?
Because I just felt that Phil was going to kind of put his personality, or, try to, Shaq was, I kind of like to say he was like the eighth wonder of the world. Like,
he was an immovable force.
Exactly. Like, and at that time I was in charge of the Lakers preseason. And so meaning when we had Shaq, we had Lakers across America basically. Yeah. And so we played in all these cities that now have NBA teams. We took the Lakers to play in Memphis, then they got a team. We took the Lakers to play in New Orleans, and then they got a team. And we were actually the first event ever in the Oklahoma City arena.
Really?
But anywhere Shaq went, people just couldn't get over his ability, his athletic ability on these size 22 feet. You know, it was just amazing. Anyway, so the expectation was we should be a championship team with this kind of talent.
Sure.
And so finally the pivot to hiring Phil, and I was afraid that Phil was going to take away that, just explosive personality, Shaq, the lovable Shaq. And,
but he let Mike do his thing.
What do I know? That's when my dad did listen to me. I was very happy about that. But, so I literally went to the Phil Jackson press conference, and you can see me rolling my eyes like, oh, this is, because we couldn't even, the amount of media attention, we had to move it to the Beverly Hills Hotel ballroom.
Sure.
Because it wouldn't fit in our just regular press room at the, forum, because, he was larger than life. So I didn't meet him till a few months later. And as soon as I met him, it was his voice just, it made me sit straight up. I don't know. It was amazing. And I didn't know if he was married. I didn't know what his situation was. And I had found out that he and his wife were separated. And, we spent some time together. And I basically said to him, and I think this is important for anybody who's dating in the workplace. I said to Phil, there's something here, and if we're going to date, then it has to come with full disclosure to the organization, because we could really put people in awkward positions and burn the trust of everybody if we're keeping secrets.
Yeah.
I'm not interested in keeping secrets. So, I had to sit down with my dad and tell him that this relationship was beginning. And
how'd that go?
I was worried about it, but of course my dad, in, the most loving way, always thinking of me first as his daughter, not as a person working for him. He said, I've always thought you should date someone older than you, because then he would really appreciate you. And I'd been married and divorced, and I really was at that point in my career where I was working. That was my ambition, spending all the time. I wasn't really having a social life. So Phil and I just met right at the right time. And, my dad, of course, was supportive of it. And I think that's, if I can be the poster child for mixing business and pleasure, really don't keep things a secret. And if it's something worth pursuing, then do so in a way that doesn't compromise you professionally.
Welcome back. This week we have Danny Gold. How was ISIS and Al Qaeda? Like, how was that sitting down and talking to those guys?
Dude, that was tough. I mean, that was a story that I did the same time I met these Al Qaeda guys. I was in this city. It was the same time I spoke to those. I was with that rebel group that I just mentioned with the commander. And it was a divided city that I was in called Ras Al Ain, and you had a couple of different groups there. The regime had been fought off, but you had a couple different groups there that were at a sort of standstill, that didn't have the same goals, but were sort of coexisting for the moment. And the group that I was with had their half. There's another group that had the other half. And then there was this group called Jabhat al-Nusra, which were essentially the Al-Qaeda affiliate there. It wasn't official, but everyone knew it at the time. And they actually announced the official affiliation, I think, like a day after I left. And these guys had their little base there. And the rebels I was with was like, do you want to go talk to these guys and like see what they're saying? And I was confident that the guys I was with could protect me if things jumped off. And these guys, the Al Qaeda guys at the time weren't in a position to really be starting things.
Sure.
So we went over there, and the first guy I meet is like, "Oh, hey, what's up?" and speaks English. We went to the little base. He was from the Emirates, and he had studied for a year in Seattle. So he talked about like, the Supersonics and Disney World. And they wanted to talk, the younger guys, but they were like, we don't have permission. Like, we can't talk to you guys right now. Just please leave here. So we left. And then a couple days later, we got a text message, or one of our guys got a text message that was like, that guy and one of his colleagues, I don't know what you call one of his Al Qaeda colleagues, like, they want to talk to you guys, but like, they can't do it at the base. So we'll go meet at this mutual friend's house, and you guys can have a conversation. They want to tell you what they're all about.
Yeah.
So we went over, me and the photographer. We met these two guys, and I had the rebel contingency I was with to sort of make sure that we were safe. And we sat in a house with them, and they were like, this is just a talk. This isn't for journalism, all that. So I excused myself to the bathroom, turned on my tape recorder, put it in my front pocket, went back, and then we just had a conversation for an hour. And I think, there might be some people who say that ethically you're not supposed to do that, but it's kind of like, when you're in an anarchic war zone and dealing with Al Qaeda, I might do some questionably ethic things to get a story out there. But yeah, we had an hour long conversation with them. It was easier because this guy spoke English, and it was weird, man. It was weird.
What happens if they find the recorder on you?
Oh, that's probably not going to be good.
Yeah, can't be good.
It wasn't. Look, I was very young at the time. It probably wasn't a smart thing to do looking back. And there's a bunch of decisions I've made that I'm like, that wasn't, even going to talk to these guys in the first place probably wasn't the right thing to do. But when you're like a young freelancer, you want to get a story. And I think you're willing to take more risks than you should. What is,
have you ever been like seriously like fearful, like, all right, this might go real bad, or I'm in trouble here?
Yeah. There's
because I read about you secretly recording that human trafficker.
Yeah, that was another situation. I've definitely, in my earlier days, I did this story in the Central African Republic when I was working for Vice. And it's actually on video. You can see what happened. It's the last 10 minutes of the doc. It's called War in the Central African Republic. We got pinned down. We were following some cars. We had just seen Samantha Power speak to like a press conference. We're driving back. Things are kicking off. It's like this really anarchic situation. We're following these other cars, and they turn around and they start heading back towards us. So we don't know what to do. So we just basically drive to the side of the road, abandon our cars, and run into a village. And then there's just gunfire all around us. It wasn't super close, but you don't know that when it's like echoing around you and all that.
Yeah.
So we got pinned down. I was with a pretty famous journalist called Robert King at the time, who had 20 years of experience covering wars. So, that was a good position to be in. But like, we got pinned out. We had to wait till nightfall, get snuck out of the village into like some church where it was kind of like a sanctuary there. And then French special forces had to come rescue us and take us back to their base. But it was cool. They gave us a bunch of their little MREs, which were actually kind of tasty. The French take care of their soldiers, man, I gotta say. So that was a scary one. It's not always like bullets flying at you, right? It's more when you're in a situation where you're not sure if you can trust the people you're with.
Sure.
Like the situation I explained then. Another situation, I had to run across a border into a city that was under siege called Kobani, which became like a really symbolic symbol for the Kurdish groups who fought off ISIS. ISIS had that city under siege. It was actually the first time the Americans bombed in Syria, and they bombed ISIS to support the Kurdish group that was there, the YPG, and they fought back. But I had to sneak across the Turkish border, and my whole team didn't make it across. It was chaotic, so I ended up there alone. Had to team up with another random reporter, and like being in a city under siege is crazy because you're going to sleep at night and you're hearing firefights in the distance, and you don't know what's going on.
No,
like you don't know if they're getting overrun, if they're not. So it's living with that sort of tension. That to me is like the most stressful thing, where it's kind of like you don't know what the safety is. It's not things flying by you. It's that, like, not knowing what the situation is. That's the scariest thing for me.
Yeah.
And Ebola was scary too.
Yeah, I was going to ask next about that, because I mean that almost scares me worse than the gunfire and all that stuff. That's a whole different animal.
Yeah, dude. It's
what year was that?
2014. That was like the September 2014. That was another one for Vice. I went back actually in 2015 to do one for their HBO show. But that was like the height of the Ebola outbreak in Liberia, and it's actually it's like a.
And why did you go? Is the question.
I volunteered.
He's like, I'll go.
Yeah, they were like, it was in my newsroom, and they're like, who's willing to go cover Ebola? And I wasn't really thinking, like, I do things and then I think about them afterwards.
Sure.
And it was that. But, it ended up being a really good story, and it got me a lot of good attention. But it was, Ebola's actually hard to catch, but you're not thinking about that when you've been around people with it, and then you're lying in your hotel room at night and your stomach starts to hurt a little bit, which is like going to happen when you're eating food in a developing nation in general. But that's how Ebola starts usually. So that's terrifying. That's really, really, and you're like, did I get too close? Did I do this? But it's actually, to get Ebola, it involves like mucous membranes and fluids and all that. So if you're just near someone and they're breathing, you're not going to catch it, right?
Got it.
But you're not thinking about it rationally.
Hell no.
When you get that like stomach ache at 2:00 in the morning, you're like, I'm the guy. Like I'm the guy that's going to get airlifted out of here. Or I had to come back. I came back to New York and I was like quarantining myself in my apartment for a couple of weeks. And, you start to feel a little sick and you're like, I'm the guy. Like there's going to be a front page New York Post story about how this idiot doofus from Brooklyn went to Liberia and brought back Ebola and put everyone else at risk. I don't want to be that guy.
Sarah Merrill Hall, now married now.
Yes.
So we picked up the Hall. Comedy writer, creator of Big Kid Problems. So, like, whenever you were living your Sex and the City life in New York, like, were a lot of your tweets and Instagrams, like, off of your life, or?
Yes, I'd say primarily this account has followed my life. Yeah. So the problems have evolved over time. It went from then being super broke in New York to then being, like, single in New York and, like, dating everyone in New York.
How was dating in New York?
Really fun.
Really?
Really fun. Like, I always tell my
Sorry, Brandon.
Yeah. I was having a good time. Yeah. I always tell my girlfriends, because now that I live in Nashville, all my girlfriends complain. They're like, there's no good guys in Nashville. I'm like, okay, one, you're wrong. But I'm like, move to New York. Like, it's a great dating scene.
There's a million people in New York.
Yeah, and there's new ones every single day.
Just coming in.
Yep, coming in hot. So I think that's a great place to date. But
what's your worst dating story in New York?
Oh my God, there's so many.
Did you ever get catfished in New York?
Yes. Yes.
I got catfished in Chicago one time.
Did you really? Mm-hmm. And what did you do? Did you sit through the date, or did you kind of like bounce?
I walked out.
Did you really?
100%. Just walked right out.
That was the right move. Yes. I was like nice, and I sat for a drink.
Did you really?
I sat for a drink, and I was chugging this thing, like trying to get through it as fast as I could. And he like ordered another one really quickly. I'm like, no. No.
Like, what did you? I don't understand the conversation.
I
literally like sat down. I was like, all right, see ya. Walked out.
I always look at bad dates as an opportunity to just get to know somebody like on a friend level. I'm like, I don't know, maybe this guy could be really cool. Maybe he could tell me something I don't know about New York, that like a cool restaurant or something.
You're a better person than me.
I know. I try.
Yeah,
I try. But I was getting nothing out of this conversation either.
Yeah.
It was just like bad. It was just bad all the way around. And I ended up chugging like two, sangrias.
Yes.
And walking out of there hammered. And was like, I will never do this again.
I can't believe that you sat through. I can't believe you sat through that.
I know. Now I just wouldn't have the patience probably now. But at the time I was like 23, 24. I'm like, what do I have to lose?
Couple free drinks.
Exactly.
It'd be a good story. It'd be good for my for your tweet or whatever it was.
100%. There's so many times at this stage in life I was going through things in New York and I was just saying yes to everything because I was like, this is going to make great content.
Yeah.
Content for days.
Welcome back. We've got a Nashville resident, Clay Travis. You're probably more socially liberal than you are.
Oh, so look, I believe I want tax rates low. I want people to be able to smoke weed if they want to. I certainly want people to be able to gamble if they want to.
Yeah.
I'm very pro alcohol, and I'm just pro individual freedom in general.
Do whatever you
I want the
do.
government to have less control over my life in all respects.
Yeah, and I think that's probably the majority of people.
The vast majority of people, I think. And certainly in the world of sports, by the way, we've let like this tiny subset of the woke universe just drive everybody bonkers.
Insane.
And it started in sports to a large extent, but I think it certainly has taken over more and more of the culture in general.
Well, I think that's why you're so popular now, is because, there's a lot of common sense behind what you say and what you.
I like to think that. I also think that there's a lot of people who just respect, even if they disagree, people who say exactly what they think. Sure. Charles Barkley had a great phrase. I don't know if you've heard this. So I was out to dinner several years ago with him before I had any kind of national platform, because he's from Alabama, and I've got a bunch of buddies who are good friends with him in Alabama. And I was in media, but he said, Clay, I got this advice for you, because I think Inside the NBA is probably the best studio show that's ever existed in sports, right? And those guys are just supernatural.
Yep.
And what he said was, if you worry about the opinions of people who don't like you, then the people who do like you won't like you anymore.
Makes a ton of sense. That's
right.
That's a great quote.
It's an amazing quote, and it's so true, because I feel like, and the other great example I'll give you is one of the guys
unless you're just pissing off a shit ton of people, then it might backfire.
But the Jamie Horowitz, who does television, said, "Man, all you guys are way too concerned about what people say about you on Twitter."
Yeah.
And I would say this for anybody who's in the public arena in any way, but also people who are just worried about what their high school classmates are saying, or what he said, you do a television show. It would be super weird if you walked up after you did the television show to everybody on the sidewalk and asked them what they thought of you.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I'm Clay. What do you think of me?
Yeah.
He said, that's what you do when you dive into your mentions. He said, share whatever your opinion is.
Yeah.
Let people fight over whether they agree or disagree with your opinion. But you, as the opinion person, being concerned about what other people think about your opinion is super weird. And if you take it outside of social media and you did it anywhere else, like if you walked into dinner and you were like, there's 8 people at the dinner table and you didn't know them, you're like, hey, I'm Jay Cutler. What do you think about this interview that I did with Clay Travis? I'm really, really concerned about what you think. Everybody would be like, who the fuck is this guy? Like, why do I care? And so I thought that was good advice too, because it's kind of pathetic when you think about it in that context.
Well, I think with social media and everything, like everyone is so ego-driven and just scared of what people think.
Yeah. What disappoints me is, and I think we're starting to break out of it because I see what Elon Musk will tweet, and even what Jeff Bezos will tweet. I don't understand why people who have fuck you money are so concerned about what people think about them.
Yeah, it's great.
Right? If you had $1 billion, to me, the best thing about having $1 billion would be no one can ever do, if you live in America. Now, if you're a Russian oligarch, maybe you have to feel differently.
Sure.
But if you live in America,
it doesn't
is that
matter.
Nobody can ever do anything to you.
You can't touch me.
You're protected. So why would you not say exactly what you think?
Here we go. Pat McAfee on the podcast. I don't know how you made time, but I appreciate it. You're the busiest dude I know. Is this story true about the Miami trip and you borrowing $100?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, it's dope, right?
That's unbelievable. So as a senior, you took $100 from a friend, played poker at an illegal club. How did you find this illegal club, first of all?
So that was when the World Series of Poker was happening. You remember that? Like Chris Moneymaker won and everybody.
It was the hottest thing going.
Over everything. Mm-hmm. Yes, took over everything, Jay.
Yep.
And I think I come from a working class community, and whenever we saw Moneymaker win like $7 or $8 million playing poker, I think every high school kid and every kid in every town like ours was like, "Oh, all right,
I can play poker."
Yeah, this is gonna be my way out. So my school, a lot of Italians. I mean, so many Italians where I grew up from. So there was games in like guys' garages and kitchens when their family was out of town, like almost every night of the week where I came from. 25, 50 cents, Annie Blinds, whatever, small game. You'd go in there, try to win like $4, $5, $10, whatever you could do. And I was pretty good. I always got good cards. So I was like somebody that I think I recognize, like, hey, I get fucking good cards. So I was doing pretty well in a lot of these games. And there was a game in a restaurant that was in town that I had heard about, and a lot of our friends' dads went and played in. And it was a little bit bigger blinds, a little bit bigger pots. And I got invited to go down to this kicking camp in Miami. Like, it was 1 month before signing day. So at that point, Kent State was really my only offer. If I wanted to go into kicking, it was going to be Kent State, or I was going to continue the soccer route. Like, I had to figure out what I was going to do. I get a call in the middle of my chemistry class. I think we were learning about significant figures at the time. It was a phone call from Miami on my phone. Mr. Jasper's my teacher. Cool dude. Only teacher I got along with, probably. Literally the only teacher I probably got along with at the time. I asked him if I can answer this phone call from Miami. I had no idea what it was. I answered. It was his kicking coach named Mike McCabe. He was having a kicking camp, and he wanted his guys in Florida that he had trained to compete against guys from other states that had college offers. So he said, the camp is like a week and a half next weekend. We'll send you all the information. I was like pumped. I'm like, all right, here we go. Because I'd never kicked against people from other places. Anytime I showed up on a field, kick a soccer ball, it was kicking it faster than everybody else. Kick a football, kicking it further than everybody else in my area. So I was pumped to go to this camp. They sent over the information. Hotel, flight, and camp would have been like $1,500. So my parents weren't about it. Like, hey, that's not like
not happening.
That's not a thing that's happening. So
get lost, bud.
Borrowed $100. Yeah, exactly. Borrowed $100 from one of my dudes. Go into this game, and I got a full house, jacks full of nines early, and just had to hang on. And I had like $1,750 at one point. Just got blinded down to like $1,400. Got out of there like 4:30 a.m. ish. Went back to my house. Basically gave my old man, as he was getting up to go to work, the $1,400. Said, I need $100. Let's go to this thing. Win the camp. I kick a 65-yard field goal, miss a 70-yard field goal. Had an offer from West Virginia the next morning.
That is incredible.
Lucky as fuck. I don't get that hand. Awesome. I don't get a wind gust that keeps the 65-yard field goal in the upright and pushes it instead of pushing it out of. Probably not. But that is why I think I take next to nothing serious because of how, like, the events in my life have just been so fucking lucky and fortunate. And I got very fortunate in that particular case, and it went, man. It fucking was awesome.
Yeah, I mean, but you took the initiative. I mean, you were going to try to figure out a way to get down to Miami.
Yeah, I think you're 1,000%.
Yeah, I mean, you're.
I wanted to see what they could do, Jay.
Yeah,
I wanted to see what they could do.
If you don't get that hand, you figure out something else. Like something was going to happen. Like you were going to make it happen to figure it out. And I mean, did anyone even else attempt a 65-yard field goal down there?
No. So you had to make.
You had to keep going back every 5 yards.
Yeah, you had to make. Yeah, you had to make from 50.
Yeah.
Then you had to make from 55. Then you had to make from 60. Then I made from there, and then I missed from 70. I could have kept going. So you had to make to go back, but I had to leave.
Yeah.
I had to leave immediately after. I went first. This was a competition on Sunday. It was like the big. I I had to leave immediately afterwards because I'm the one that booked my flight, and it was terrible. I had like a 6-hour layover in like Charlotte, so I couldn't even stay till the end. So I didn't even know if I won.
Yeah.
I get home that night. I get home Sunday night, and my mom and dad are like, "How'd it go?" I'm like, "I think pretty good. Did you win?" I'm like, I have no idea. I had to get out of there. No clue. I had no clue. The next morning, though, Tony Gibson from West Virginia now he's at NC State. He literally came walking into my cafeteria with the trophy that I had won and made me an offer. And I was like, oh, I fucking won. Okay, here we go. Great news. Yeah, so my life's dumb, Jay. My life is very, very dumb, Jay.
Oh, I mean, that's pretty. I mean, there's so many people that are successful. I mean, you gotta have some luck. You've got to have some things go your way. That's just kind of how it goes.
I guess, but
maybe not. What do I know?
I think I haven't talked to many successful people as I probably should have to do full research on this. I think what you're saying is accurate, but there's just, if that night goes a different way, how's this whole thing paying out? Who knows? Can't think about it. Just keep moving forward. That's kind of how I do it.
Hey, I'll do my own intro. Okay, Are you new to this podcast thing? I'm getting that vibe.
I've done it a few times.
Okay. Well, I think I've been doing it.
This is my third.
Okay. I've been doing it a little longer. I'm Sofia Franklyn. I have a podcast, Sofia with an F.
How'd you land on the podcast?
So
did you stay working at Morgan Stanley while you were doing the podcast?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It was really fun because the podcast is very graphic and we talk about sex very openly.
Yes.
And I remember going to work and then having to rush to like the studio right after, talk about blowjobs, talk about sex, talk about whatever.
Sure.
And that went on for, I don't know, a month. And then people at work started finding out and they were like, you're going to get in trouble for this. Mm-hmm. But at that point, we got picked up by Barstool and started the podcast there. But it was kind of scary going into work, I'm not going to lie.
How did you meet Alex?
So we had a mutual friend and we were both looking for a place and like a roommate. And she put us in touch, and we went to look at apartments, and literally that day we signed a lease together.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we had chemistry. We hit it off.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Did you guys know that you guys want to do a podcast at first, or no?
No, we didn't. But we had this energy and this chemistry with each other, and
what year was this?
I don't like 20. 2022, 2019? I don't like, where the fuck are we? What year is this? I have no idea. You asked what day it was on the phone call earlier.
Yeah, well, I mean, every day is just basically a Wednesday in my life, I think. They're literally just all the same.
Yeah, no, I feel that. But what the fuck was your question?
When did you start your podcast?
2018, 2019.
Yeah, I mean, podcasts are huge now, but like 3 or 4 years ago, they were big, but everyone didn't have a podcast.
No, we got in at the fucking perfect moment.
Yeah.
Like exactly the right moment, and that shit blew the fuck up.
Was it just you two to start, or were you guys having guests?
No, it was just us two. And so first if you really want me to start from the beginning, I'll make it quick. We were at South by Southwest, and we were like at a bar, and we were talking about like getting DP'd and like all this crazy shit. Not that we got DP'd personally, but just we were being wild.
Sure.
And we had, by the end of the night, just a group around us being like, you girls are fucking funny, like you guys should do something. Yeah. So we started a YouTube channel, and then I don't know where the fuck those videos went or what happened with that. And then we had someone approach us to start a podcast. Yeah. And then 3 or 4 episodes in, Barstool reached out and was like, we want you to bring it over to us.
Was it Dave?
Mm-hmm.
And then how long were you guys at Barstool?
Probably 2-ish years.
And then you guys just quit for 6-7 months.
What do you mean? Like we didn't release an episode?
Yeah.
Are you a Dave like fan, supporter, bestie?
Here's the thing. I mean, I'm not gonna pick a side in this because I don't know anything about it, and I honestly I don't care. Mm-hmm. I don't care who was right and who was wrong. It makes no difference to me. I've known Big Cat and those guys for a long time.
Yeah.
Big Cat started in Chicago when I was there.
Okay.
So I've known those dudes for.
Okay, so you're your best friends and you're here to grill me.
I'm not here to grill you. I am not here to grill you at all.
No, so yeah, Dave reached out. He brought us over there, and then we did it for 2 years, and then shit blew up.
Yeah.
Blew up like we were the biggest podcast in the world, and then blew up like I had to leave the situation.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I knew you guys were huge, and I knew you guys didn't release anything for a while, and then I know that it got a little sticky.
Right. So we were in contract negotiations.
Yeah. I mean, you guys are the biggest podcast going, so like you guys wanted more money naturally. I mean, I get that. It's
100%.
You know, it's
that's what you
basic
do.
Math. Yeah.
And we could not come to a resolution. So we're like, hey, we're not going to like release shit until we figure this out. And
playing some hardball, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. I mean, in a negotiation, like whoever has the leverage, like fucking use the leverage.
And you guys had the leverage.
Right. We did until Alex decided to go straight to Dave and be like, yo, I'm ready to put this back on air and fuck Sofia.
Yeah, she screwed you.
She did, big time.
Did you know that was going to happen?
You know what? I didn't, but I'm an idiot for not knowing just because I should have seen like how she treated all of her friends before me and, you know.
Were you guys living together still at the time?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Yeah, but I did go back home to Utah to my mom's during that time because I was like, this is like way too crazy. We cannot be in the same apartment.
After she went back to Dave or during?
No, this was before because we could not come to a resolution about like what we wanted, and it started to get a little messy between our conversations. And I think she went to Pennsylvania, and I was like, I'm going to Utah.
Did you guys both have different agents working, or were you guys together?
That's a really interesting question. Neither of us had agents at the time. And then...
So you guys were solely trying to work the deal with Barstool
Well, we
together?
had an attorney. We had a shared attorney.
Okay.
And then when we started not seeing eye to eye, I was like, I'm going to get an agent. I think you should do the same. And because they understand this shit better than we do, and you and I having these conversations is not good for us.
Why weren't you guys seeing eye to eye?
I mean, do you have 7.5 hours or?
I mean, I've got lunch at 1, so we're pretending I forget. So we got time.
All right, well, cancel your lunch plans because here we go.
Give us the 7-minute one.
In a nutshell, let me put it this way.
Okay.
All right, this podcast, Barstool brought us on.
Yep.
They are a machine with marketing.
Huge machine. I mean, at that point, they were a machine.
Yeah. However, our podcast was super successful and blew the fuck up in its own right, you know? And at that point, it was like, how much do we need Barstool? We didn't.
Not at all. You guys could have went off by yourself and made perfectly fine.
Right.
Yeah.
Why
didn't you? Are you gonna get there? Got it.
Thank you. Hi, here he is. Yes. So that was the plan. We were gonna do that.
Yeah.
And let me just point this out. I'm making $70K and 2.5% off merchandise. They're taking home like $11 million a year, roughly.
Sure. Yeah. Didn't add up.
That's right.
Yeah.
Like straight up. That's what it is. So Alex and I were like, we need to fucking leave and fuck the IP, the name, call her daddy. Fuck it. We'll call me daddy. Bye.
Sure. Yeah.
And we were on the same page, and then we had the infamous rooftop meeting with Dave Portnoy at his apartment. And something switched in her brain where she was just like, you know what? Well, Dave offered to give us our IP back at the end of a year.
Okay.
But all the other deal terms, the merch, how much we were getting on it, we were going to do an alcohol. They wanted like 90%. Like there were so many things that, and also I didn't fucking trust him to give me the IP, to be honest.
Yeah.
So, but something after that meeting, like she flipped a switch. Even our attorney was like, oh, he didn't offer anything like crazy, anything new. Okay.
but she was gung-ho and she was like, no, I think we should really do this.
Really?
Mm-hmm. So that's where the disagreement came in. But I think her and Dave had like this relationship that I was not aware about.
Got it.
I'm not like saying, I mean, maybe it was sexual, I have no idea, but I'm just saying, yeah, they had a closer relationship. They would talk, they would text, they'd be flirty. I wasn't part of that.